Oh, so you've heard of the glute max before, but have you heard of the gluteus medius? Let's dive in. So a muscle we're going to talk about today is something called the gluteus medius, and I see a lot of weakness in this muscle in postmenopausal women, but also premenopausal women, maybe just in women in general, but also runners, and I see this in males as well. It's actually generally because of our sedentary behavior. I do see this kind of throughout populations. We have weakness in this muscle. And so I want to go over 3 really good exercises that help engage this muscle and strengthen this muscle and kind of get it fired up. These exercises are not one size fits all. I tend to give them a lot to my patients. There's 3 on this video, and we'll go over them in a second. So a way to test this is a single leg balance test. So what the single leg balance test does is you can put your hands on your hips and kind of just do a little hop. So you just stand normally. So with your little hop, it just helps to kind of neutralize how you usually stand. And in this position, try and lift one leg. I'm not going to tell you what you're looking for yet, and then do a little hop, and then switch legs. Okay, so what happens then if you now look at your pelvis, what you're looking for is that the seam of your waistband stays level or parallel with the floor. So I'll show you again. So if you watch my pant line is staying relatively straight. Same thing with the left, relatively straight. What usually happens as a physio, what I see with weakness, is if you watch my pelvis now, we either drop toward the hip, so you can see now my left hip is lower than my right, or we raise up the opposite hip, so now my left hip's higher. So what this does is it takes the load off the butt muscle, that gluteus medius. So it's a compensation pattern we see people do to single leg load and offload the glute medius, so the gluteus medius. So that is a quick single leg screen, I guess, or that is a quick screening test to assess whether or not you have gluteus medius weakness. The first exercise we're going to go over is called sidestepping or lateral band walks. Some people also call this crab walks. There's a lot of names for it. You may have seen it before. So what you're going to do is you're going to put a band. So I have a band like this. You can also have a long band and just tie it into a circle and tie it around your knees. You can also go around your ankles. The ankles makes it a little bit harder, but I'm going to start with my knees. You're going to go into a squat position, and you're going to see that my ankles, my knees, and my hips are relatively in alignment. I'm going to give a little squeeze apart with my knees, so I'm pushing against the band. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sidestep to the left. I'm going to transfer my weight over to the left, putting all my weight on the left, take the right off. I'm trying to keep my torso up. Do that again. So I'm going to shift my weight over, put all my weight on my left, come back to neutral. I'm going to go to my right now, so I'm going to shift my weight over to my right. My alignment is still amazing. Step again. So you'll see I'm single leg loading right about here. What I don't want to see is some common mistakes are people lean their body, so that offloads the glute, or people often let their knee collapse in. So you drop it inward. So you want to keep that pressure on the band. And you want to kind of go until you feel exhausted. So it could be 10 reps, it could be 20 reps, you can do it for time, but you should definitely feel it in the outsides of your hips. This is lateral band walk. So the next exercise, what is amazing for the gluteus medius, or again that muscle right in here in the back of the posterior hip, is a side plank. But we usually like to add a leg lift. So a lot of people, maybe you're not strong enough. This is great though. If you can get up here into this position here into a side plank, amazing. You're trying to push your hips up and forward. My elbows line with my shoulder. I'm nice and tall, squeezing my glute in the bottom. Now, that's kind of the original side plank. To really engage the gluteus medius, we're going to try it from our knees, but add a leg lift if you can. So, I'll show you without the leg lift first. This is kind of version 1 or level 1. My elbows in line with my shoulder. I'm going to engage my core, squeeze my glutes, lift my hips up toward the sky and then up toward the camera, forward. And I'm squeezing that butt. So I feel this here. Now, if this is pretty easy for you and you can do it well, then you're going to lift a leg, but keep the hips up. So with the top leg, you can keep it here. I feel it really, really well in my glutes. I can do some circles if I want to. I can do some pulses, but the key is you don't let your hips drop while you lift the leg up. Okay? big issues here, or people who do this and have mistakes, they let their hips flex, so they're not pushing their hips up into extension and up into abduction. That really engages that glute. So the glute med really works well in hip extension and hip abduction, and so that's why you have to lift your hips up toward the ceiling and then toward the camera or forward to really get that engagement. So I'll show you on the other side. So the side plank is an awesome exercise. It's great for your core, it's great for your obliques, it's great for your glutes, it's great for your shoulder. And so there's a misconception that core is just abdominals. It's not. We call it like the pelvic, I don't want to go into details right now, but there's a misconception that the core is just the abdominals, but the core is kind of the whole torso and how the torso translates energy from legs to arm. Think of like a baseball pitcher or like a volleyball hitter. How do you get that power from your legs to transcend or transition to your arm? So the side plank, elbow under shoulder, hips are squeezing up and forward, my core is tight, and if this is too easy, I'm going to lift a leg, really feel those glutes working on both sides. And the last exercise is an isometric hip abduction into the wall. Now, if I had $1 for every time one of my patients told me, I showed this to them, and they go, yeah, I got it, and I sent it to them in their email, and they don't do it right, it's kind of one of the biggest reasons I started this channel and these videos is because this exercise right here. So the hip abduction isometric into the wall. It looks really simple. A lot of people do it wrong. And so let's go through it. So you're going to start by a wall. The stance leg is the one that's going to be working, not the leg that's pushing. So I usually want to be about hip width away from the wall. So I do about one length of my foot. So I swivel, I place my hips in the wall, I cross my arms. So my torso is just resting on the wall. It's not pushing into the wall. So basically it's like I'm standing, but just I'm being a little bit supported by the wall. Well, I'm going to do the harder version is I'm going to lift the opposite leg off. So I have to use the hamstring on this leg to lift my leg up. I'm going to engage my core, squeeze my glute, do a little bit of a squat. And then in this position, I'm going to push my right leg into the wall. But I'm staying upright. I might have a little bit of a squat here or a little bit of forward flexion in my torso, but I'm pushing here and I feel it in my hip on this side. Now, if you look at my leg, it's in line, okay? So I'm not way out here, okay? I'm not at an angle with my leg. That really doesn't do a whole lot for me, okay? I'm not collapsing in, so I'm not letting my arch collapse or my knee collapse in. It doesn't really, my pelvis isn't in neutral anymore. So I want to make sure when I'm doing this, my knee, ankle, and hip are in alignment. I engage my core and glute first before I lower down, and then I push into the wall, and I'm like, whoa, this is engaging. You can maybe see too in the video that my arch is almost coming off the floor as well, just a little bit. It's almost like I'm rolling slightly onto the outside of my foot. Okay, so in this position now, you can hold this, you can do some squats if you want to, up and down. You can hold the position and push, but man, you should feel that glute working. To switch sides, I'm going to go on my right one now. I'm going to swivel from behind. I'm going to push this left leg in, and this right leg is in line. And I can hold it here, I can do squats up and down, but I feel this hip working here. Now, that version, if you can't really find, I shouldn't say find, but if you don't feel like you're getting a glute contraction, or you're like, I think I'm compensating, do the same thing, but now just keep the back leg down. It's not lifting up, so I'm keeping my toe on the ground. I'm squatting, and I'm pushing my knees apart, okay? So it's still working the same muscles, just a bit easier because I'm not lifting my back leg off. And again, you can do some lunges here if you want to, or split squats. You can just push your knees apart, so push this knee into the wall and just hold it. There's some variations, but you should feel that stance leg hip working. So this is hip abduction, isometric on the wall. Great exercise. So there you have it. Those are my 3 favorite and really simple exercises for your gluteus medius muscle, which is again a muscle on this side of the pelvis, and this side of the pelvis, you have 2 of them. That is fantastic if you're a jumping athlete, if you're a running athlete, if you're a female athlete. Basically, even if you're not an athlete, these are awesome exercises to do. Now, final disclaimer is that some people, I do treat people who I will give these exercises to, but I can't start them off with them because they're just too difficult. So when someone has a gluteus medius tendinopathy or a gluteus medius tear, these exercises can actually make the pain worse. So if you do have a lot of pain in this area, I would seek medical attention because these are very basic exercises that are great for any athlete or any person that's not really having a lot of pain right now in that area. But I do have found that these exercises may be too aggressive for people who do have gluteus medius tendinopathy or gluteus medius tear. So please take care when doing these exercises. It should feel like it's working, it might feel like it's burning, but it should never cause sharp pain in the muscle or in the hip. Have fun working out.
Wait, you're a physio?